y'all hear me out there? All right. The question everybody in here wants to know. All right. Schwarzenegger, too old. Stallone's too old.
I know where this is going.
Marky Mark's too short. All right. Who's playing you in the movie?
I think maybe you. You know? I think maybe you.
I do hear McSteamy from time to time.
Yeah. I can see that. We just need to work on your Boston accent. Now, yeah, I think that would probably be, in all seriousness, I think that would be the one thing that I would have to insist upon was whoever it was could do the Boston accent justice.
So The Rock's out. That was my guess.
We'll see, man. Yeah. We'll see.
Nick, can you just share maybe an experience where you felt like you were failing at something that was important to you, and when you were, how did you overcome it?
Oof. I'll go deep here because I think there's a lot of us in this room that can relate to this. By the way, guys, I have no idea what questions they're going to ask me. They honestly never didn't share this with me, so this is truly authentic, off the cuff. Here we go. I fail at this consistently. And it's one that hurts me the most, and that is the balance between my family and my profession and my ambition. And those are really three different things for me. Right? My family is pretty simple to understand. My profession is that of a service member as a soldier. And then my ambition is kind of what happens next that I'm starting to do now. I'm literally here right now doing some of that. And those of us with families, those of us with spouses and kids, we've all been there, where even though you've just worked a 10-hour day, you come home, kids say, Dad, Mom, happy to see you, and you're tired, but you're also still thinking about the grind, and you're thinking about the work that you want to do, and the emails, and what's happening tomorrow, and am I prepared for my presentation, and have I done all the things? And there are times that I come home now in a similar exact environment, and I get on the floor. My oldest is 5. We're playing with Legos, playing with dinosaurs. She's excited to see me, and I'm doing that, and then I got the phone in the other hand, and I have to just remind myself really a couple things in that moment. One is this is okay. This does not mean that I don't love and cherish my family. It means that I got a lot of balls in the air, and at times I have to let some of them hit the ground. And right now I'm letting this hit the ground, and that is unacceptable. Because this family time, for one, is deliberately put in my schedule because it matters to me. And 2, that other stuff, it's going to be there later. It's going to be there tomorrow. So unless there is a Scud missile heading towards my house, I don't care what's going on at work right now. I need to not care what's going on at work right now. I still fail at this. I'd like to think I'm getting better. Fortunately, my wife, who's an absolute savage, by the way, she's like a little 5'4" version of me, only much more of a badass, does a great job of reminding me when I get this balance offline, very subtly, you can imagine. So I have the team around me to help me with that. So that's something that I continue to fail at. And it just takes, really just deliberate effort, man, in maintaining close proximity and visualization of our priorities.
Awesome. And for that next step in life, I mean, motivational speaking, inspirational speaking, like that's second to none. This past summer I got the opportunity to meet Tony Robbins, had a meet and greet with him. Thanks to one of our partners, put on an event, and seeing you in person, that trumps that to me. And I know reading your book, that you mentioned him a few times in there. So I'm curious, you inspiring us so much. Who are some of the folks that inspire you?
Oh, wow. That's a fantastic question. I'll start off pretty basic, and I'll say my father, who enabled the foundation of my work ethic in me. My mother as well. My father was more deliberate about correcting me and making me be more of a person of action and kind of don't talk about it, be about it. So I still learn from him. He's my best friend in the world. He had me really young, so we're not that far in age. And then I'll go kind of to the extreme here. I'll make people kind of scratch their head, and that is Hector of Troy. Stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with me. Hector of Troy. You guys have seen the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, right? Hector kind of gets kind of a bad rap or an unfair look in that movie, right? Like Brad Pitt kills him, straps him to his chariot, drags him back. He does say later on to his father that Hector was the greatest warrior he had ever fought. The real Hector, right? This is all really, really old history, Greek mythology, so take it for what you want. Is Hector was the ultimate champion. And the word champion in today's world is looked at mostly through athletics, right? Super Bowl champion, world heavyweight champion. The word champion back in the day, yes, it pertained to that person's specific warrior fighting capability, but really it talked about their ability to inspire and lead, and by doing so, solve complex problems. So when commanders were on the battlefield, and there's tens of thousands of troops going at it, and they're being overrun on the right flank, and he doesn't have enough bodies to add to that. Rather than trying to send 1,000 guys that he doesn't have, he would send one champion who would show up. And even though that champion's individual fighting skills was beneficial, the real benefit was what he did to the other men around him. They saw him, they would see Hector show up and be like, we were just about to retreat, but now you're here. Well, we can win. We can do this. So just his mere presence enabled and inspired the ultimate leader, those around them, to see what they could do, enable what they could do to be a better team, be a better overall entity. So I think of Hector, I think of the word champion, and not only was he that, he was also a loyal and loving husband, father, and son. That's probably not what you were expecting, but sent it. Yeah.
I actually do want to open it up to the audience here. Does anybody want me to come down if you raise your hand? Yep. Hey, Nick, hold on a second. I want everybody to be able to hear that.
Can everybody hear me? All right. So what I was saying was, you went through all the training, you did everything to get back onto your team. Do you have any limitations now?
The word limitation is one that I'm really not a huge fan of, which probably isn't going to surprise anybody. There are, of course, multiple modifications that I've had to make and ways to go about solving a problem a different type of way. I think the one that comes to mind is just the amount of maintenance that is required to keep me moving forward, both literally and figuratively. Like, these things have limitations, man. I mean, this thing is a marvel in science. But I break them. I beat the hell out of this stuff. So there's been times where I'm in a situation, like tactically, or just walking through the airport. I was literally walking through the airport 2 days ago. My leg just like exploded. So the level of preparedness that I have to have has certainly changed to where I have to have certain things ready and then a certain method to correct what happens. So that's time consuming, right? I can't keep this on 24 hours a day. A lot of people see me at work or up here talking, they just assume that this is like fixed to my body, but it's not. I have to take it off. My residual limb, which is the preferred vernacular for a stump, which is offensive to some people. I can say it because it's mine, right? So like the maintenance of that, both my leg and the hardware itself is just now part of my kind of like everyday routine. So I have yet to find a task that I have been unable to do I've just had to unlearn how I did it for 30, 35 years. I turned 40 yesterday, by the way. Thank you. I don't want to go off track, man, but not a whole lot of limitations in terms of what I can't do. I just have to learn the new way to do it. And then those that are around me, rely on them to facilitate me actually doing it. Thank you.
Anybody else out there got one?
Go ahead. Just ask. I'll repeat it so everyone can hear. Thank you. Yep. Can I define love? No, I'm not laughing at it. It's good. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think maybe I don't want to paraphrase your question, but you said the second go around the word purpose, because for me, love and passion, a deep respect and connection for something or someone. And when I use that terminology with what I do professionally, I use it in terms of the actual process of doing the thing. I don't love being a Green Beret. I love doing the work of living as a Green Beret. Just a slight distinction. And then how do I identify or maintain this level of purpose with what I do despite what I've been through, or I've been shot, I've been blown up, I lost my limb? Like, how can you still love it this much? How can you still be that drawn to it? I don't know. The only way that I think I can describe it is, is everyone accounted for? Okay. Look around, check for maybe your great-grandmother, grandfather who's wandered off somewhere and is crossing a highway. I don't know. But what I do know is that as I grew, as I developed the skill, it's a skill, it takes effort and repetition. As I developed the skill of internal dialogue, self-actualization, internal honesty, as I've learned how to do that, and I look at myself in the mirror and I ask myself, why are you here? This is the only answer that I've ever heard since I began having that conversation. So maybe not as a philosophical answer as I can learn to create, but I can't fathom doing anything else. Because, like I said, I think it's the greatest honor that someone can do. There was someone over here, I'm sorry. Sir.
Between planning and scheduling, preparing, and doing, we all have lots of calendars. Family, community, work, and perhaps even congregationally. How do you manage your life with calendars and sharing that with your wife?
Yeah. I mean, from the macro perspective, I use a real military approach to how I go about formatting it and visualizing it. I've operationalized my day-to-day life, which is all also in the book. I'm really not plugging the book, but there's just more in there that I can say here now. There's graphs and charts. I actually show how I do that, right? Different lines of effort, different lines of operation on a scale, on a timeline, decision points, decisive points, all that stuff's in there. All that stuff that I've learned through conducting military operations, I've just taken those same principles and tools, applied them to my own personal life now. But on the micro level, I use a, digital calendar. I plug things in. My wife has access to it, which is good because she can see where we're at. So technology's obviously come quite a ways now, which I certainly leverage. But I think the greater point that I'd just like to emphasize based on that question is priorities. And again, it can get real easy to start filling things in there with what we're excited about in that one moment. Work, for a lot of us, that can supersede everything often. And then our families or our loved ones become this afterthought. And we can say, my family means more to me than anything, but are you actually doing that? Are you actually showing that? Are you living that? Like, do you really mean that? Or is it just something that you're programmed to say? And this is hot. I told you, like on the floor with the Legos and the phone, and like in that moment, I'm like, God, I suck as a dad. I'm horrible at this, man. But I also can understand it because I'm ambitious and I'm passionate and I got a lot of things I want to do. And I know with certainty that life is a gift and it could end like that. I've been on all sides of death, guys. I've been on all sides of death. I've administered it, I've been alongside it, and I've been on the receiving end of it. Life can end like this. And that perception is a gift. That perception is a gift. So knowing that, every day has to matter. I have to maximize whatever time I have left here. And a lot of times with us, that can be work. Let's go, let's grind, let's get to that next promotion, let's start the business, let's close the deal, and the next one, hungry, thirsty, go. Yes, meanwhile, you haven't seen your kids in 3 weeks. So I took your question, sir, in like a whole crazy direction, but in terms of calendar and matching and syncing with wife and job and stuff, yeah, there's like technical means to do it, but before that even matters is, what are you putting on the calendar? Do any of you on your calendar right now have dinner with spouse tomorrow? Play Legos with kids from 3 to 4? Don't feel guilty. This is a learning process, right? So I think that becomes step one. Thank you, sir. Yes? Yes, sir. Oh, wow. That's awesome. 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 Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. I was in third group for 7.5. Third group will always be home for me. Yeah, man. So I appreciate your boy, your family. Thank you for what you guys have done, your sacrifices. Yes, ma'am. Wow. Thank you. I think that right there is the answer to your question. Yes. Where does it stop? Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure that it does stop. I think that it changes and it molds over time. And, you know, success to me is one goal achievement after another, doing so while happy. So combining ambitious goals and joy is what I think the ultimate satisfaction might look like. But what I just described doesn't really stop, because I think that once we stop stretching and pushing the boundaries of what we're doing, then we're just like waiting to die at that point, and I don't want to do that. So I don't think it does end. I think just to summarize what happiness, joy, success looks like to me, it's one ambitious goal achievement after another, but doing so with love and happiness in my heart, and doing so alongside people that I love. That's how I'll answer that. Thank you. Sir.
So your nickname is Machine, Cyborg. Can you touch on that and what that means to you?
Yeah, no, I will. I'm glad you brought that up. My nickname, at least here in America, is not Machine. No one calls me that. Please don't call me that. It's weird. Every time someone says that, the story behind it, I'll tell you. It's actually it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. This began in 2015, my first deployment back to Afghanistan as an amputee. It didn't take long before the locals began referring to me as Machine Fighter, which is Palawane Machina in Dari. So the Machine Fighter. So word traveled really fast that this Palawane Machina was in this country moving around, and we did some mission at some point in time out to some location that hadn't had any Americans for decades and decades, if ever. And we walk into this village, and these kids are running out, and they're all screaming, Palawane Machina, Palawane Machina, Palawane Machina. And so like word just traveled really fast. So that was kind of interesting and funny for my teammates and I. And then the following year, I was deployed to Somalia, so an entirely different continent. And within a couple weeks there, the same exact thing happened. Different language, but originally it was computer, which is Swahili for computer, and then that morphed into machine, right, which is Swahili for machine. So the same exact thing happened. So now we're like batting like 2 for 2, and now my teammates are like, oh, this is definitely a thing now, which is fine. But now, you know, this machine idea, this brand, this image is a philosophy. It's really about the combination of different components that once put together can create something unstoppable and something really great. Like that's what the term today means to me. It's not me. Like, yes, I started as the machine, but that is more of a funny story for me and the genesis and the origin of the term. Now with my team and I and the things that we're kind of slowly grinding and getting more and more into In the public space with this machine brand, it's about the organism. It's about the pieces, the precise components that are there with although by themselves can do something, but when put together can create something fantastic, something phenomenal, something unstoppable. That's what that means, man. Really cool question. Thank you for asking that. Yo. Yes. This is something that it in a really dark and strange way, really almost irritates me because I have a more difficult time empathizing because I really didn't go down a dark emotional path, even from the onset. And I use that really lightly. I tread really lightly. I'm very sensitive when I bring this up because there would have been absolutely no shame whatsoever if that had happened. Therefore, it's really not something I'm proud of. It's not. It's not something I'm proud of because I have a lot of really close friends that have done some really amazing things in some of the most unbelievable circumstances that have or are currently struggling with that stuff. And I don't look down on them in any possible sense whatsoever. It's almost expected. Like this is supposed to happen. The human brain and the human mind do have limitations and everyone's wired a little differently. It breaks, and like let's deal with it. So I really didn't struggle emotionally. There were certainly a lot of moments of frustration and anger through all of the setbacks and failures and difficult times. My father tells this story better than I do. You know, when you're at Walter Reed, you meet with like every type of medical professional you can think of, and part of that are the psychs. They come in, they see how you're doing, they talk to you. And the first time I talked to one, he's like, hey, how's it going? And I think within the first minute I said, I'm going back to my team. And like he didn't even ask me that question. And he's like, okay, no, like, how are you doing? You know, I'm like, I'm good, but like I'm going back. And so after I met with him a few times, at one point he came walking in to meet with me, and I was getting wheeled out for surgery, and my father was in my room. And he comes in, he says, hey, Dad, listen, this is a good time to talk to you because I've talked to Nick now like 3, 4, 5 times, and he keeps talking about going back to a Special Forces detachment and going back to Afghanistan. I don't think he has grasped the severity of his injury yet. So I want you ready as his father to be prepared for when that light bulb goes off, because it could very easily turn into this really dark, nasty, depressive kind of state, and I want you ready for that. And my father, who tells this story better than I do, he says, hey, Doc, like, thank you, I appreciate that. I will keep an eye out for it. But I think that he gets it. Like, I think that he knows where he's at and what he's dealing with. He's just already target fixated on this thing that could happen, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Like, he's just not thinking about it. He's thinking about that and what can he do to begin movement towards that. So emotionally, yeah, like certain, I don't want to misconstrue, absolute waves of emotional roller coaster, without question. Highs, lows, setbacks, anger, frustration, doubt, fear, concern, worry, all that happening, right? Like a whirlwind. But I really was never in a really negative place for longer than, you know, a couple minutes, a couple hours, and then I was like, let's get out of this, and like, let's go. I will just say one thing, it's similar to that because it's not physical in nature. When I was in the hospital, I realized eventually, although it was a hard pill to swallow, that no matter how hard I trained physically, I would never be as dominant physically as I was with 2 legs. Doesn't matter how much time I spend in the gym, the weight room, the fight house, none of that. I will never be as physically imposing as I was with 2 legs. So, how can I make up the difference for what I'm going to lose physically? How can I do that? How can I make up some capital? How can I bridge that gap otherwise? And you guys think of Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Delta Force, like all the special ops guys and gals. You're probably thinking about the real cool guy stuff. jumping out of the planes, and swinging out of helicopters, kicking in doors, shooting bad guys in the face, blowing shit up, right? That's the stuff I love to do. That's why I came into this industry. But after I had spent a couple years doing it, I realized that there is a whole nother side of our business, the softer side of our industry. And there are all these other things that need to happen by somebody to enable all the cool guy combat role stuff, right? So I knew that, and I'm in the hospital, and I just decided in that moment that I'm going to invest myself in some of these other things because I believe, faith, a firm belief in something for which there's no proof, I believe that if I did that, it would make up that ground to maintain my level as an asset. And what's important to know about this is that I absolutely despised it. It was brutal every time because now rather than doing 3 workouts in the gym a day, I was doing 2 so that I could spend this other time that I would have spent in the gym learning a foreign language or enhancing my foreign language skills. I was reading about geopolitics. I was reading about cultural dynamics in the Middle East. Right? I was studying campaign planning, military strategy, targeting methodology, intelligence fusion, like all this nerd shit that I wanted nothing to do with. I was not that guy with 2 legs. I was one of the ass kickers. But I believed that if I did that, committed wholeheartedly, actually built up those skills and capabilities, that it would make up the difference. And then the point of that is really discipline, like knowing that this will work and then doing it whether or not I felt like doing it or not. And then just to kind of come full circle, when I did eventually deploy, first time, amputee, I was able to employ a lot of those skill sets, so it really did validate what was originally a belief and faith. It actually came to fruition, which was really cool to be able to do that and to actually be that asset for my teammates.
All right, Nick, thank you again for taking questions from the audience.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you to everybody here and everybody that's been watching on the live stream. I think we've got folks all across the country watching this today, including Jacksonville Beach, because we all know the people that live at the beach don't go over the ditch on Fridays, even for this. Just a couple logistics. We have great sponsors here. They're going to be out there. They're available if you'd like to talk to them after we exit the theater. Nick is going to stick around as well. He's going to do some book signings. His books are here, Objective Secure. You got just part of a message from Nick today. There's a lot more you can learn from his book, specifically about how he approaches missions. I highly encourage you, if you have not read this book and you don't have a copy, we have copies out there available for you guys that Nick will sign. Future Home Loans team, we'd like to just ask Nick if he'd be willing just to stay here for a couple minutes with us so we can get a picture with the team with Nick on stage, and then we'll be out there with you guys in just about 5 minutes. Thank you again for coming. Another round of applause for Nick Lavery.
Good stuff? Good stuff.
Fantastic.
Everybody have a great day.